Welcome to Green Building Matters, the original and most popular podcast focused on the green building movement. Your host is Charlie Cicchetti, one of the most credentialed experts in the green building industry and one of the few to be honored as a LEED Fellow. Each week, Charlie welcomes a green building professional from around the globe to share their war stories, career advice, and unique insight into how sustainability is shaping the built environment. So settle in, grab a fresh cup of coffee, and get ready to find out why green building matters.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Cicchetti. And once a week, I get to interview a green building professional somewhere in the world. And today, we're going to talk materials. We're going to talk to Simon, and we're going to talk about James Hardie and a product line there. Simon, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, really well, thanks.
Amazing. Well, thanks for hopping on. I'd like to just get the origin story, if you could. Where did you grow up and go to university?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Midlands, middle of the UK, so around the Coventry area. And education-wise, I went from the Midlands up to the Northeast. So I ended up in the Northeast, just below Newcastle. Yeah, so moved around quite a bit in my career and my life, but yeah.
Tell us about that early career. Did you know you wanted to get into construction? How'd you end up in building materials? What was the early journey? And, kind of what were the dots that got connected for you?
Yeah, so career-wise, started off in more of a sales environment and moved between sort of the Northeast and Northwest of the UK. And then after a few years of sort of trying to, like everybody, trying to find out what you want to sort of get involved in, I actually joined our family business. So my parents had a construction company, that specialized in dry lining and fire protection and cladding. So yeah, joined that business, and like lots of family businesses, was made to go on the tools of all things and my stripes. But we specialized in acoustic and sustainable products and fire protection and that kind of thing. Quite specialist.
Well, it sounds like you learned business there, but definitely building materials and helping the family business. So, because that's another question I ask is, did you have any kind of mentors, influences, so far in your career? Sometimes, Simon, a mentor is someone you look up to, you read their books, you watch them on stage, and sometimes it's someone you have access to, and they might even open a door for you. But have you had a couple mentors along the way? Yeah,
I suppose in my career and my life, that sounds a bit cliche, but the biggest influence would actually be my father. Taught me a lot of how to sort of look at different parts of the industry and stuff like that. And he's actually still works to this day in the construction industry. So it's a bit strange because I have quite a distinctive surname. So you definitely get, people know that we're related, but unfortunately for me, a lot of people think we're actually brothers rather than father and son. So it speaks more about me than anything else.
Oh, what a great mentor there. And so I guess that helped influence you to get into construction there, the family business, your dad is a mentor. And you mentioned some sustainable products. So, this is the Green Building Matters podcast. In a minute, we'll talk about Hardie, but what were some sustainability focused things early in your career? Like what was standing out? Is it recycled material? Is it less harmful materials? What was sustainability, say 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, so it's definitely down the recycled route. We had quite a sort of specialization in regards to looking for things that were recycled and specific products. There was specific like acoustic systems that we installed that were made from recycled glass. There was recycled dry lining products that we used and installed, and we sort of focused on that really rather than going down the sort of more traditional what everybody else was doing. Tried to find the sort of specialization and the sort of the niche markets in that, because one, it's better for the environment, and two, the industry needs to change and needs to drive itself forward. So if everybody keeps doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same results. That was where we were going from.
Yeah, well said. I'm in the U.S. We have a program called LEED here. You're in the U.K. There's some LEED, but you got BREEAM. So do programs like that, have they kind of pushed the materials industry, and hopefully in a good way? Maybe at first it's like, holy cow, now I got to change everything. But how have you seen that maybe influence some of your work?
You definitely see it in the construction industry in the UK now. People are developing things like green steel. So where the steel's been produced and recycled, you've got, people are producing recycled dry lining products, one of which we do ourselves here. So there's definitely that sustainability. And I think the other thing that people have moved away from, I started my career a few years ago, and people were more interested in cost and building things cheaper. And I think there's definitely a drive now for people to look at a sustainable product, but then also a product that's going to last, because then you're not putting more carbon issues into the environment. So, yeah, it's definitely a changing market because
it's changing. I know on one side we have what's the impact on the environment, at factories, supply chain, embodied carbon. On the other side is the hazardous materials, right? We need EPDs, environmental product declarations, and HPDs, health product declarations. Tell us a little bit about that part of it. Is it just part of your submittals? You have these cut sheets available? I mean, what's your stance on disclosure?
Years and years ago, sort of first started, and people prior to me, you would have guys on site storing away boards and cutting stuff down, and there's plumes of dust, and nobody's got any respirators or anything like that kind of thing on. Nobody's got face masks. Nowadays, what we're seeing on construction sites here in the UK, people, stop using brooms, they're using vacuum cleaners. People are using moisture suppressant on sites. I had a conversation with somebody today who has a timber frame factory and he's using our boards and wants to switch to staple fixings because the nails cause too much dust to plume up in their factory, and they're worried about the air that their employees are breathing in the factory. So there's definitely a push towards that. The environmental declarations are huge these days, and that's definitely a driving force. And we're very fortunate here in the fact that we've got a strong R&D team that work towards gaining those accreditations and certifications and checking what's in the boards. Yeah, it's definitely a driving force within the industry, and it's good to see, because I think the days of people just banging away on products on sites and injuring themselves without realizing is gone. Thank goodness.
No, we have to be more proactive there, and arguably the construction industry hasn't innovated in a while, and we can do it in the products too. So that's kind of a good segue to tell us more about your 10 plus years at James Hardie in Europe. And for those that don't know, I mean, I remember growing up around Hardie board and houses and stuff. But just tell us a little more about your company and some of your role.
Yeah, so my role, as you said, I've been here over 10 years, and my role originally started off from the fibregypsum thermocell side of the business, which is more sort of the recycled dry lining products that we sell. And then obviously, because of my background in regards to sort of cladding, I have quite a key role in the technical and side of the business regarding fibre cement cladding products. So that can be the Hardie plank or Hardie panel. We're definitely developing more and more new products. I mentioned our R&D team. They're working quite extensively on developing, making sure our products conform to the latest regulations here in the UK. There's a lot of changes. People are doing some really good stuff around making sure that cladding is safe and that the right products are used in the right places. It does actually make my life really, really simple, because all of our products conform to the latest regulations. So that's good. And it doesn't matter where they go or how high the building is or anything like that. So yeah, we're very fortunate in what we do here at James Hardie.
Well, and with that influence in Europe, sometimes more advanced in other regions of the world. And so that's what I'm hearing too, is it's like, hey, if we're already doing this here, that may already be ahead in some other places, and even sometimes here in the US. So can you give us a picture of how far is your reach? Like, what countries do you sell into?
James Hardie here in Europe, we sell it across the whole of Europe. So we have facilities, we cover the whole of the UK, and we've got offices and warehousing in France, Spain, Germany, Denmark, Switzerland. We're right across the whole of Europe.
Sure, you're getting to some cool countries there. The sustainability side again, maybe as a company, are you seeing some really neat things on just how you operate versus the product, right? I think that's the hardest part of any of our businesses. I have a couple of small businesses is, hey, not only do we want to help people be green, and maybe in your case, product, in my case, service or education, but hey, what can we do with our impact? So is there anything you can highlight as a company you're kind of excited about?
We're lucky in regards to, as I said, our development is in, environmentally friendly products, and also products that are made to last. I think sometimes people focus on the products themselves and what they don't realize is that sometimes if you've got a material that's going to stay on a building for a long period of time, that's just as environmentally friendly because you're not pumping VOCs into the environment by having to reclaim things. Something people forget about is the fact, if you have to keep repainting something over and over and over again, then that's got real damage to the environment with, VOCs and stuff. So we're really good with that. So we spend an awful lot of time looking at our coatings and how that's with our cladding systems to make sure that they have longevity and that they look as good as they did the first day that they went up. And then from a sort of recycling point, we have the ability to recycle our film soft fibregypsum products. So we actually recycle and take the waste away, put it back through the process, and use that as part of our manufacturing process as well. So, we're quite fortunate in that regard.
I love that. Let's look back one more time. Achievements, what's on the highlight reel? Career, personal, just what are a couple things on your highlight reel as you look back?
Yeah, one of my proudest achievements on the personal aspect would be, I was fortunate enough to get involved in a project called Derby Quad, which is a cinema and music and entertainment building in the middle of Derby in the heart of the UK. And they needed just very specific acoustic absorbing systems to be installed and designed. One of my sort of highlights of my career was being able to sort of design and manufacture and then install a whole raft of acoustic panels. From a sustainability point of view, the really cool thing about it was just that the panels are all multicolored and very bright, different shapes and stuff like that. It's a very sort of dramatic looking building. But the panels are actually made from recycled glass. The really cool part is that the glass is like granular formed into a sheet. And what it does is it absorbs the sound into it like a big sponge and then dissipates that out so it doesn't echo or it doesn't reverberate around the building. The really cool part is that, 15, 20 years, it's still there. It's like, nobody's pulled it down yet, which is kind of cool.
Oh, man, that's a huge accomplishment and project. Anything else on the highlight reel you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I suppose it's from a more sort of recent aspect, it would be the development work that we're currently doing to push forward our timber frame side of our business in regards to, obviously from a sustainability point of view, we need to come up with better ways and quicker ways of building housing units in the UK. So we've got a big drive at the minute on focusing on all of our products, whether it be our cladding or our dry lining products, to work and create systems for the timber frame market here in the UK. There's a big push for housing here, and we need to sort of speed up and make more efficient ways of building those houses.
Oh man, that's exciting work. Everybody check out JamesHardie.com. Under About James Hardie, you can see sustainability. There's some really cool goals. You can download the sustainability report, but I love the one here, zero harm. And I think that's just fantastic. Yeah. So let's talk about the future. I love to ask a professional like you, hey, what are you kind of excited about? Anything we should be reading up on now that is coming at us in this materials industry or maybe this green industry?
I think generally the UK construction industry is evolving and changing quite rapidly. Some of that is through regulation change, but the majority of it is through to sort of the demand is driving people to be more efficient. And with efficiency comes sustainability. And it also becomes, you reduce things like your carbon issues or your waste reduction as well. So you mentioned, lean manufacturing. We are heavily into sort of lean manufacturing. And we're also seeing that people that are using our products are looking for better and quicker ways of using our materials. So things like, we've started looking at, some of our products can be cut to size. So there's reducing on the waste side of that. When it comes to our sort of dry lining side of products, the metal manufacturers are cutting to length so that there's no waste on site. When it comes to our cladding systems, people are using them more efficiently. So we're working on looking at different parameters of the board, whether we can reduce waste for our customers in that regard. We have an estimating service here and the guys will actually work with the developers are making the most efficient cuts to our boards so that it reduces their waste factor for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just waste. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. And the less waste you have on a construction site or a manufacturing process, the better, because at the end of the day, from a cost perspective, from a sustainability, I expect, you're not having to ship that around, you're not having to transport this away or deal with it on the other end.
That's right. We're focused on embodied carbon. So less waste means less embodied carbon too. I love this conversation, Simon. Next on the podcast, I'd like to just get to know you more. Some rapid fire questions here. So what would you say is your specialty or gift?
So, a bit of a strange one. My gift is to try and be as organized as possible. I'm pretty much, I like a spreadsheet, and I like to have things aligned in my own mind about how they're going to work and what the plan is and things like that kind of thing. So, I'm fairly organized. So, that would be what my special sort of task or special gift would be, I suppose. Any
systems you use? Do you plan your week ahead of time and then visualize your day the morning of? Those are some things I do. But I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 pro tips?
Visualization's a big part of my work. So I continuously, and much to the frustration of my family, by the way, continuously ask questions to make sure I know what is happening, when it's happening. A couple of, one of the tips that I do personally is that I use exercise in the morning as a point to focus in my day. So sounds a bit mad, but get up, exercise, and then while I'm doing that exercise, actually focus on planning out my day. Yeah, helps keep it weight off as well.
That's an important thing, gives you some energy and you feel like you've already accomplished something. And that's a good segue to my next one here, which is, just any good habits, routines, rituals. But the visualization for our podcast listeners, if you really tell yourself, here's how I hope my day flows, and something comes up, your subconscious tries to get you back on the regularly scheduled programming, right? So it's just, if you have said, hey, here's what I really got to get done by the end of the day, not a list of 10, 15 things, but this thing I got to get back to, right? You get back on it almost automatically. So I definitely am a fan of visualization. So how about any good habits, routines? You mentioned fitness in the morning, your strength training, running, biking, walking. What are you into?
Swimming, cycling, and running. Obviously not all at the same time.
Called a triathlon. I've done that.
I did one of the weekend. It was an interesting. Yeah, so I ride bikes a lot and I swim a lot. So the beauty with it is they're repetitive exercises. So you can think about other things while you're doing it, which is what I use to sort of focus on what I need to plan out through the day.
Love that. All right, so let's talk about bucket list. Simon, as you get to know me more, I'm a fan of a bucket list. Not everybody has one, but what are 1 or 2 things maybe on your bucket list? Any adventure, travel? You want to write a book? I don't know. What's on the bucket list?
Definitely not write a book, but it would be, I've got a real sort of passion for places like Japan. I'd love to travel more later in life and see sort of, I've got a real interest in Japan and places like that kind of thing. So that would definitely be on my bucket list.
Yeah, I love that. All right. How about, is there a book you'd recommend or a podcast or a documentary? Doesn't have to be about buildings.
Yeah, okay. So I'm a bit of a music buff, and music's always been around in our family, and, I've sort of passed that on to my children. But the last book I actually read was by a musician called Tricky. He was sort of late 90s, still around now, but late 90s musician in the Bristol music scene in the UK. And the reason why it's sort of interesting is that the book's all about his life, but it's written by people that know him. And so there's like family members that have written parts of the book about him. It's just fascinating to hear how someone gets into music, their career, and, how he processes his own demons. The book's called Hell is Round the Corner, but it's just a really, really interesting book.
Amazing. I'll put a link to the book in our podcast show notes where you can check it out. Sounds like a very fun book. Thank you. Hey, just a couple more questions as we get to know you and your career and the innovation happening at Hardie. As you look back on your career, Simon, is there anything you wish you'd known earlier? Any career advice you wish someone would have told you earlier?
Yeah, I suppose sort of if somebody was going to if I could sort of turn back time and stuff like that, I think the main thing is trusting yourself, trusting you believe in. And I think a lot of people, you can sort of, as you go through your career, and especially when you're starting off in your career, I think you can sort of doubt what you think. But I think trusting in yourself sort of unfortunately only comes with age and knowledge, a bit of history and learning how it works. But yeah, that was definitely my advice to myself, you know.
That is good advice, man. A lot of wisdom there. But before we move on, I kind of related to some of that in teaching is just, you mentioned some mentors earlier, your dad, but just, what are your thoughts on that within even a company, maybe a large company like yours? Do you have any kind of formal mentoring programs or more just ad hoc? Are you approachable? How do you maybe lean into and level up others?
Yeah, I mean, we're very, very fortunate here at James Hardie in the fact that we have a linear management system. So some businesses have built off sort of hierarchical business, whereas when it comes to mentoring and advice from others within a management team or the sales team, everybody feels that they can sort of reach out to each other and ask questions. And, the great thing with the modern industry and modern sort of platforms that we've got now, it's, I had a question about something to do with finance. I literally just teamed somebody within our head office. They come back and they send me a guide on how to do what I needed to do. So we're very, very fortunate when it comes to sort of development and knowledge, and the fact that you can literally just reach out to anybody. I can reach out to guys at James Hardie in the US. There's always somebody that I can ask that question to about how to get something solved. We use various platforms for training as well. So we have a system called Master Plan here, which you can download training videos on almost anything, whether it be something to do with a sales guy that needs some advice on how to present, or information on how Excel works, or that kind of stuff. And there are tons and tons of training courses on there that you can use. So we're really lucky in that way.
I love that. You don't know this yet, but for all my podcast guests, if I see you at a conference or something, I give you a T-shirt that says, "Teach everything you know." And that's my motto here on the podcast, teach everything you know. Last question, Simon. Let's say someone's listening to this podcast. Maybe they're making a career change, or maybe they're a young professional thinking about getting into this construction industry, this green building movement, maybe the material side of things. Any words of encouragement for someone that's just now jumping into this industry?
Yeah. The main thing is just embrace anything new. Don't get too wrapped up in sort of the traditional side of it. We're really big in developing, redesigning, and pushing the boundaries. We have a saying here, which is, be bold and progressive. And I think that fits really well into the construction industry. The only way that the industry for somebody new coming in is going to develop and grow would be to literally embrace the new things coming through the systems or new developments within the construction industry. And it's entrepreneurial people like that will grow in the construction industry across the world.
Yeah, there's something we've talked about on the podcast before called intrapreneurship, right? There's entrepreneurship, right? Maybe a business owner taking risks, but man, the companies that really succeed are those that really encourage intrapreneurship. Hey, you run this revenue stream, you build out this team, you do this innovative thing, let them be entrepreneurial, but within a company. So I think that's what you're saying. And it sounds like that's what at your company, man. I love that. Anything else as we come to a close? I've loved our conversation today.
No, I just wanted to sort of say thank you for your time. It's great to meet you. And it's really, really good to sort of reach out and have a chat. It's cool.
Amazing. Yeah, some people connected us. So to all our podcast listeners, connect with Simon on LinkedIn. Check out the great work he's doing. Go to jameshardie.com. Really read up on the sustainability goals they have. I was impressed by that, and that's why I wanted to have him on the podcast today. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At gbes.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to gbes.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode. And you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.